Have you ever thought about a world where a single book could cost as much as a house? I mean, a world where knowledge was so rare it was literally locked away, available only to the richest and most powerful people. Well, that was Europe before the 15th century. And then, one single invention changed absolutely everything, kicking off a revolution of ideas that totally reshaped our world. So, let's get into it. Seriously, just let that sink in for a second. We're not talking about a luxury item like a fancy car. We're talking about a symbol of incredible wealth and power. Books weren't really for everyday learning. They were treasures. And the knowledge inside them, it was guarded just as fiercely. This whole situation created a world of, well, extreme information scarcity. You see, before Johannes Gutenberg showed up in the 1440s, every single book in Europe was copied by hand. It was this painstaking process, mostly done by scribes in monasteries, that was just incredibly slow, super expensive, and honestly, full of mistakes. So knowledge wasn't just hard to come by, it was controlled. Okay, get this. 300 books. That's it. And that wasn't some little local library. That was the biggest collection in all of Europe, at the super prestigious University of Paris. Today, you've got more information packed into your phone than the entire continent's elite had access to back then. It's just wild to think about. And this is where the game just completely changes. A really good scribe working all day might get a few pages done, but Gutenberg's press, with just a small team, it could crank out up to 3,600 pages in a single day. This wasn't just a small step up, it was a quantum leap. It completely transformed how things were made, making information suddenly, almost shockingly available. And you have to understand, this scarcity of information wasn't some kind of accident. It was a feature, not a bug. When knowledge is that tightly controlled, it's pretty easy to justify a very rigid social pyramid. You had this theory of the three orders, basically those who pray, those who fight, and everyone else who works. It was sold as the way things were meant to be, and without any other books or ideas, who was going to argue? So, how did this all get turned on its head? Well, enter Johannes Gutenberg. The thing about him is, he wasn't just some guy who invented a new machine. He was a systems thinker. His true genius was in combining a bunch of existing technologies into one incredibly efficient process that, would end up changing the world. This is the heart of his brilliant idea. He came up with durable, reusable metal letters. That's the movable type. Then he took the screw press, the kind used for making wine, and adapted it to press paper evenly. And finally, he perfected a new kind of oil-based ink that would stick perfectly to the metal but wouldn't bleed all over the paper. All three things together created this revolutionary system. But here's the thing, Gutenberg didn't just pull this out of thin air. His invention was kind of like the final piece of a puzzle that had been coming together for a long time. Paper was getting cheaper, more people wanted books thanks to the invention of eyeglasses, and metalworking was getting much better. The stage was set. Gutenberg was the one who saw how all the pieces fit together. Now, here's where the story takes a really interesting twist. Gutenberg himself, he actually died broke. The real revolution, the explosion of ideas, started when other printers took his concept and just ran with it. They created this whole new competitive industry, an economy built not on physical goods, but on information itself. This quote just perfectly captures the birth of mass distribution. Printers started flocking to Venice, which was the massive shipping hub of the Mediterranean. You can think of it like the Silicon Valley of its time. You could load up books and pamphlets onto ships and send them all across the known world. It was the first real international marketplace for ideas. And this system created the very first form of mass media. News about wars, discoveries, or scandals could suddenly spread with unbelievable speed. A story printed in Venice could be read out loud in a pub hundreds of miles away in just a matter of weeks. For the very first time, people could feel connected to events happening way outside their own town. And the key here is that all this competition created diversity. To beat their rivals, printers started publishing what people actually wanted to read, not just what the church or the king told them to. This opened up a brand new space for radical, groundbreaking, and often controversial ideas to find an audience and just spread. So with information spreading like wildfire, what was the actual impact? Well, it wasn't just a tiny shift. The printing press became the engine for three of the most important transformations in the history of the Western world. We're talking about the Renaissance, the Reformation, and the Scientific Revolution. Each one of these massive historical movements was supercharged by the new ability to mass produce and share texts. Let's break down exactly how. First up, the Renaissance. This rebirth of classical knowledge was already bubbling up before the press, but it was stuck with a tiny group of elites. The press took all those rediscovered works from ancient Greece and Rome and just blasted them out there, making them widely available. It spread new humanist ideas all over Europe and ignited this incredible cultural explosion. Okay, next, the Reformation. You've heard the story of Martin Luther nailing his 95 Theses to a church door. But the revolutionary part wasn't the hammer and nail. It was that the press took his words and turned them into a European firestorm. For the first time, reformers could speak directly to the people, completely bypassing the church's total control on religious information. And finally, the scientific revolution. Science at its core is a team sport, right? It depends on people sharing their data and theories. The press let scientists like Copernicus, Galileo, and Newton publish what they found, letting others debate it, test it, and build on it. It created a permanent, shared record of knowledge for the next generation to use as a launchpad. When you step back and really look at the scale of all this change, a really powerful modern parallel just jumps out at you. The printing press wasn't just a clever new tool, it was, for all intents and purposes, the internet of its day. I mean, the comparison is just staggering. Both of these technologies radically dropped the cost of sharing information, which broke down old monopolies and gave a voice to tons of new people. All the social, religious, and political chaos we see in the internet age is basically an echo of the exact same process that started over 500 years ago. And that really brings us to the core lesson of this whole story. The printing press shows us that technology is never neutral. It proves that one of the most powerful forces in human history is the simple act of sharing knowledge. When you set information free, societies don't just change a little, they are transformed right down to their very foundations. So, as we wrap up, I'll just leave you with this thought to chew on. We've seen how a revolution in information reshaped the world 5 centuries ago, and we're living through another one right now. So the question is, what do you think is the next big game changer on the horizon?